Hey guys, this is Cryptic. I've been asked a few times to put together a little warrior guide for 5.4 because people always ask me like what my playstyle is and like how I do certain things, like what stuff I have macro, what stuff I don't. So I figured I'd put together a little video just to show you some of the stuff that I have and what I feel works extremely well right now with this current patch. Um, Getting started. Some of the macros I use, pretty standard for warriors right now. Um, as most people are aware who play WoW, Bladestorm is stupid strong right now because the damage was increased, I believe, by 60%. When you only have one two-handed weapon, it's still the same if you have two two-handed if you're a Fury spec, but the Fury spec right now is not that reliable as far as burst whenever you need it. You pretty much, once you blow all your cooldowns, use all your abilities, you're pretty much done. Because it's super reliant on crits, and you're not always guaranteed to get a crit. So, Arm's a little bit more forgiving in that aspect. Um, so getting back to some of the macros here, this macro shows me the tooltip for Bladestorm. So it shows whenever I hit this ability, which is on shift 3, it makes me Bladestorm and pops all my cooldowns. The reason I have it show the tooltip on Bladestorm is because Bladestorm has a minute cooldown, and so does Bloodbath. So I know that when I use it again, I know that every time I Bladestorm, I'm always going to use Blade Bath every minute. And you can, it's safe to say you can use it on cooldown. I mean, it's just a stupid strong ability, and I actually pair it up with Staggering Shout, which all the enemies that are slowed, which Bloodbath actually applies a slow, so it'll actually snare them in place, and I just Bladestorm their face off. So, and this is one that's also fairly common. What it does is it targets any one of your banners that you have down, and it will intervene to it. If you have no banner down, it will drop the demoralizing banner and make you intervene to it. And so that's also like a handy thing because your intervene also breaks movement impairing effects. So if you're getting bursted down by, say, a frost mage, or you get snared by something, hunter trap, like you're like walking through a frozen trap, it makes it easy to get out of. My charge macro, I have the charge and hamstring on the same. Charge has a minimum and maximum range. So if I'm within melee range, it'll cast hamstring. If I'm not, it will cast charge. Just makes it a little bit easier. You don't gotta have it on separate keys. You just hit Q a bunch of times, and you'll end up hamstringing them. And with the PvP gloves, it reduces the cost by 3. So, and moving on to the defensives, I have here Bound to Sea. This is my like oh shit, like I'm about to die type of button here. I have it puts me in defensive stance. It cancels my Bladestorm. It casts Shield Wall and casts Rallying Cry. So I pretty much only use this if I'm at like 2% and I'm like about to get executed or kill shotted, or I see a monk coming up trying to death touch me. So I'll pop that just to get me above the certain percentage before they can get to me and actually pull off that shot or a death touch. My pummel cancels Bladestorm if I have a healer at like 5% health and I'm Bladestorming and he's about to get off a super massive heal. What I'll do is so like no matter what, if I try and use pummel, it'll cancel my Bladestorm so that I can always get my pummel off, followed up with either a execute or something else, like a fear, so I can just stop the heal, and just give me a little bit more time, a little bit more control over what I'm actually doing. My spell reflect does the same thing. If you start Bladestorming and a mage blinks away, and you see a pyroblast coming at your face, you probably want to end the Bladestorm because you're Bladestorming nothing at this point. So it just makes it a little bit quicker to be able to survive and reflect certain spells and pummel certain spells. That's pretty much it for macros, unless you want to get into like these, I have on G and Shift G. I have my battle stance. What this does is cast battle stance and battle shout, and so that way I don't have to, click these. And my defensive stance, it'll put me in defensive stance and cast commanding shout. So if I'm fighting a double DPS comp, I'm probably going to be in this stance with commanding shout if I'm not running with a priest or warlock, because they're the only ones in the game with the fortitude buff. So if I don't have that, I pretty much want to start the match in D stance just to make sure that I can survive the burst a little bit better and be able to have a little bit of a sustain for the fight. So that's pretty much it for the macros. If you have any other questions, you can leave me a comment. I can try to answer it the best I can. As far as talents go, I go with double time. A lot of people go with Juggernaut, but I don't really see the point because you charge every 12 seconds instead of every 20, so it's an 8-second reduction in the cooldown charge. Double time, it pretty much does the same thing because you can charge twice in a row, and each use has a 20-second recharge time. So you can cast, once and then have, several seconds go by, charge again, and by the time you charge again, the other one's almost off cooldown because they go on cooldown at different times. So each charge cools down separately. So you're not going to have a time when you can pretty much always charge. So it's just endless mobility options for you, and I find it extremely useful. A lot better than Warbringer, which I've seen some use, but it doesn't reduce the cooldown, and 20 seconds is too long, especially when you're fighting a mage or something like that, who can just blink out of it anyways. So then you're just sitting there. Second wind's kind of a given. It helps you survive, especially with all your defensive cooldowns. So if you get down, you get down below 35% health and you pop something like Rallying Cry or something like that, it makes your ticks that much bigger, lets you survive for a little bit longer. It doesn't make you indestructible by any means, but it certainly does help out. Staggering Shout I went over. It's really good when you pair it up with something like Blade Storm and Bloodbath. You can snare everything around you, make them not be able to move for 5 seconds, which is good. A little bit more CC because warriors don't really have that much CC unless you go Shockwave Stormbolt build, which I'm probably going to be doing for my off-spec. And, yeah. So, Blade Storm for just ridiculous damage. I see this getting nerfed soon, to be honest with you, because it just does too much damage. But it's amazing. And you can't be disarmed anymore. So, if you get snared or, disarmed or something like that, you can actually just Blade Storm out of it, and then you just sit there and just spin on people's face for 6 seconds. So it's absolutely amazing damage. Mass Spell Reflect is also amazing. You see one of your teammates about to get, shatter comboed by either a mage, or you see a Chaos Bolt flying but not at you. You can pop that Mass Spell Reflect and bounce it right back in his face. So always a good tool to have. Safeguard is one I use for a little while because the damage reduction of 20% on the target that you intervene is amazing. But I didn't find it too useful, so I just decided not to go with that. And Vigilance is stupid. So, Bloodbath, you can get this or you can get Avatar. If you get Avatar, I would recommend going away with Staggering Shout. This is also really good too. Is when you use Blade Storm and Bloodbath, you're going to snare, like say a hunter pops the Stampede. You can actually Blade Storm, Bloodbath, and then Staggering Shout and snare all the pets, and pretty much keep them out of the fight for 5 seconds, which is also awesome because it pretty much nullifies the hunter's ability to kill you quickly, anyways, with their initial bullcrap burst. And so yeah, if you get Avatar, I would get away from Staggering Shout. Or if you find yourself at higher rating fighting more casters, which is usually the case, you can go ahead and pick up the Disrupting Shout for the AoE Interrupt, which is also good. That's pretty much it for talents. Some of the key bindings I use are, hopefully you can see it okay. The Shift 3 is what I talked about earlier with my Blade Storm. It pops all my cooldowns and pops Blade Storm. And I have, on Shift 1, I have Intimidating Shout. Something I use, something I want to know where it is, so I want to have it right there, like like ready to go at any moment, because it's amazing for stopping heals. And peeling for some of your teammates. Um, Overpower, you're not going to use too much. It does lower the cooldown by your Mortal Strike by 1 second every time you use it, but you're not really going to use it unless they're in the execute range, because it makes it free of charge. Like, you don't want to be in a situation where you're spamming Overpower, forgetting that it actually still costs rage, and then not be able to do something else. So I don't use it too much in PvP. PvE is great. I actually use this over Heroic Strike, just because it does lower the cooldown, and you can just spam back and forth continually, and Colossus Smash on cooldown, of course. Shift 4 is my pummel, paired up with the macro that stops my Blade Storm. Same with Spell Reflect, and then Mass Spell Reflect that I have on Shift 6. F is Rallying Cry. It increases your maximum health by 20%. Amazing for surviving. Usually use this when you're at below 35% to give you that extra boost and makes your second wind ticks a little bit higher. Shield Wall, pretty much self-explanatory. Kind of another oh shit button. I'm about to die, so I'm going to try and mitigate as much of the execute type abilities as I can. Aside from the monk one, which just instantly kills you, like, no matter what. You can't mitigate against that. You just die. X is Die by the Sword, makes you parry all your enemies' attacks, but they got to be in front of you. You can't parry from the back like hunters because they have magical powers, I guess. And they can also parry spells, which doesn't make sense, but another video. Shift E I have on Disarm. A great tool to use when especially against, I find this most useful against blood decays. It pretty much stops, if you get them to about 40%, they're going to start panicking, they're going to start trying to death strike you, they're going to pop their vampiric, they're going to try and death strike you, they're going to try and heal back up as fast as possible. If you disarm them around this time, you can usually stop that from happening, because they can't death strike you if they don't have a weapon. So, it's amazing. The Victory Rush, what I typically do is I'll actually charge, if I'm fighting either a hunter or a warlock or like somebody with a pet or someone like a Shadow Fiend, I'll kill it and it'll proc Victory Rush. Even though it's not a player, it'll still proc it because they are the appropriate level, and it will proc Victory Rush. Just gives you that little bit of extra heal, a little bit of extra survivability, especially if you're running double DPS. Burst comp. This is my Intervene. I know it says Demoralizing Banner, but that's just what it summons. So if I hit it, it'll actually drop the banner, and when I hit it again, it'll intervene to it, breaking CC. Well, not all CC, but just snares. And on R, I have a Heroic Leap. So, yeah, so you can see how quickly you can do things, So, if you pair everything up nice, it makes it a lot smoother, because when you're playing a warrior, you don't really have time to be looking around for some of your spells. You want to have them bound in a comfortable place where you can get to them quickly, you can charge quickly, so that you can see I just charged twice and it's already up again. So, I mean, it's amazing to have that double charge, because a lot of times if you charge somebody, like, everybody makes mistakes. If you charge a mage and they blink, you don't want to be screwed. Yes, you do have leap, but what happens if you get snared? So, like, say you leap on them and they Nova you. Well, then, like, what you want to do is you want to drop your banner, intervene to it, and charge them again. Now they have no escape tools. So, you can effectively put a few seconds of burst on them. This is my staggering shout on number 6. Depending on what kind of keyboard you own, it might be too far away. But I find this works okay with me, with my current keyboard. 5 is Thunderclap. You want to use this as soon as they you pretty much want to use this almost on cooldown, because if you're fighting, like a rogue or something like that, as soon as they vanish, you want to hit that and immediately keep that bleed on them. I mean, you can see it. I mean, it ticks for quite a bit. 40k like non-crit with no buffs. It's a good amount of damage. It actually has gotten the killing blow on a few rogues just from that after they try and vanish and get away. But yeah, so you want to use that right when they vanish to try and keep that bleed on them. And yeah, so I have the typical 1, 2, and 3 are my main abilities. It's going to be, I always use Colossus Smash first because it actually increases the damage of your slams. Increases damage on slam, makes it do additional damage, so it's kind of invaluable. So like, you definitely want to have that on there. My shouts, like I said, what I have here are my 3 trinkets. I made them a little bit bigger so you can see them better. I have my Will of the Forsaken. I have my trinket. I still haven't gotten Grievous. I've gotten lazy on that. And Berserker's Rage. And T is a good. It's good if you don't like using it, because T by default is your. It makes you target the target, or the focus target of your target, whatever. So if you use that ability quite often, I wouldn't recommend binding it to that, but I don't. So if I do run with the Blade Storm Stormbolt combination, I'll make a focused, like I'll just make a macro that actually targets the focus target. So I don't have to, hit T and then hit it. I just never lose back. I just never lose focus on my current target. It just automatically Stormbolts the focus target, stops the heal, stuns the healer or whoever it is, and I just switch back right to my target that I'm on. Because you want to always have pressure on your current target. You don't want to give them time just to sit back and free cast, just smash your face in. So yeah, so this is the talents. The glyphs I run are actually Glyph of Mortal Strike, which increases healing effects on me by 10%. This is good if you run with the healer, because you're pretty much going to be Mortal Striking on cooldown. It costs no rage, so there's no reason not to. It also gives you stacks of overpower, which, as I said before, I don't use that often, but if you do, it's still nice to have. Glyph of Death from Above. Lowers the cooldown of your heroic leap by 15 seconds. Also nice to have, just gives you that extra mobility. I mean, warriors have a lot of mobility right now, I'm not gonna lie. We can close the gap numerous times, especially with double charge. You can see the little tiny cooldown there, counting down again, and it puts the number of charges there on the bottom right hand corner. Well, depending on your UI, I guess. And I have also just recently switched out to Glyph of Bull Rush. Now, keep in mind, if you do have the double charge, the double time, it only grants rage once every 12 seconds, so similar to Juggernaut. So if you charge and then charge again, like you're not going to have a full rage bar, which is what you would have if you had, Glyph of Bull Rush. You have 15, and plus the 35 from that. So yeah, you'd be actually overcapped on rage, or close to it, after you attack them once. So just keep that in mind. Just don't think you can charge twice in a row and get stupid amount of rage for that. But I was running Blitz before. It's also pretty good. I found it kind of useless, especially when you're fighting people with pets, because it's two nearby targets, but the charge stun is so short. It's only a second and a half, and the pets, they don't cast anything or do anything important. So it's not, unless you're fighting like a warlock or something like that, but you're gonna blow it up anyways. So yep, that's pretty much it. And the minor glyphs they don't do anything special anyway. They just apply a visual, lightning strike, stuff like that. So that's pretty much it. If you are curious as to what my UI and my add-ons are, I can make a separate video on that. Just go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know if you want to know what my UI is, and I'll make a separate video on that, explaining all my values in detail, like what I have, so you can set it up exactly how I have it. It took me a while to find a setup that I actually enjoyed and liked. I like a very minimal interface. I don't like a lot of clutter on my screen, so when I go into the arena or I go into a raid of Battleground, I just have the standard Gladius targets on the right over here, so I can see a bunch of things. I also have the tidy plates above, which show certain debuffs. But yeah, I can make another video and go into more detail on that if you guys would like. So go ahead and leave me a comment and subscribe, and thank you for watching.